Welcome back to the Midnight Who Show, and tonight is my spoiler review, because there's a lot of things to talk about, of the 6th episode of Doctor Who, Series 15/Season 2, the Interstellar Song Contest. This episode finds the Doctor and Belinda landing on a space station to charge the Vindicator, which is getting them very close to returning to the May 24th date that Belinda wants to get back to. But they decide to stay to watch the 803rd Interstellar Song Contest. But a Hellion named Kid is destined to protest the event in a very deadly fashion. This was an okay episode. I definitely don't think it's going to be one of my favorites. I did really like a lot about this episode. I just think the reveals were the best part of it. I really do think, though, it's just a nice little fun Doctor Who story. Now, there's a lot of political kind of messages that you can get, of course, from the story with the kid, the Hellion, and his girlfriend, because they're, of course, protesting the corporation for what they did to their people and their oppression with the poppy honey that's destroyed their planet. I think it's handled really well. You know, you can definitely connect it to real-world events, even though this was written before some of them. But it was also very interesting to have a different form of protest with the singer, who's also a Hellion, and how that song, they're just there to talk about the corruption of the corporation. So 2 different ways of it. But I gotta say, this is a side of the 15th Doctor that we haven't really seen. This is very much like, that Time Lord Victoria style, because they go really dark in this when they just start torturing Kid. And, Ncuti really does play that really well, but it's also like when a person is threatening 3 trillion people and his friend Belinda, the side of them just comes out that we don't really see very often. And it's like when he sees Belinda, he kind of snaps out of it. But I do wish that Belinda kind of just, was a little bit more, why did you do that, Doctor? That's not what I know you for, or something like that. A little bit more. Now, I will say this was an episode that I wasn't the most excited for, but it did prove me wrong. I thought it was actually pretty good in a way. It doesn't have much music, which you would think for an episode like this. It's very limited on it, which was a little bit of a surprise. But the song that is featured the most, which is at the end, is a very impactful song. And it is very portrayed really well. Definitely one of my favorite scenes of the episode. But the reveals. One of them I was not expecting at all. And one of them, of course, flooded the internet for, a year? That Mrs. Flood was this character. I never really believed it, just because Mrs. Flood does not scream that character to me, and it makes no sense with the fourth wall breaking and all this. Really, that's that character? It didn't really make sense to me. But yes, at the end of this episode, in a little mid-credit scene, Mrs. Flood bi-generates into another incarnation of the Ronnie. Yes, Mrs. Flood was the Ronnie all along. And I'm not a huge fan of bi-generation. I may have mentioned it when it happened with the 14th and 15th Doctor. But this one's very interesting. Now with this one, though, it seems like Mrs. Flood is very much like the underling of the Ronnie. They're just a Ronnie. And they're just now their little assistant. But I gotta say, while I didn't think Mrs. Flood screamed Ronnie, but I gotta say, the new incarnation of the Ronnie screams that to me. That just seems like their character. And, I cannot wait to see them confront the Doctor. And I am glad that they just, did this whole kind of scene and we didn't really drag it out the whole next week. I'm glad we can just now get right into the finale and we're not going to have this whole episode, who is Mrs. Flood? They just got done with, even if it did felt very tacked on at the end. And, of course, it has bi-generation, which I know is a very mixed subject like Timeless Child. But I'm excited. The Ronnie's back. It's about time. I am so excited for that. And I really hope the story that we get over the next 2 weeks really delivers, because there's such a really interesting time lady that we just barely ever see. And we've gotten so much of the Master. It's nice for a little change of pace. But I think the biggest reveal and the biggest spoiler in this entire episode, and I did not expect it, was Susan is back. Whoa, that caught me by surprise. And I remember just, losing it last night when I was watching it. But it was also very interesting because it's like the Doctor having, this vision in space as they're freezing and Susan kind of sending them messages. That was just very cool. I wonder, will the Doctor find Susan? I'm very excited to see what that happens. And I'm glad that this was not a cameo. And I really hope Russell does deliver on something. Maybe Susan will return. Overall, while this may not be one of my favorite episodes of this season, it still was a lot of fun. And that's kind of nice right before the season finale. We kind of need a little change of pace right before, what I think is going to be a pretty crazy two-part story with the Ronnie, and we got Conrad involved, and other things going to happen. I cannot wait to see how this unfolds over the next 2 weeks. Are you all excited? Let me know in the comments below. What did you think of this episode? And I'll see you all in the next video. Bye, everyone.